Oh, it's just lovely to see everyone. Welcome, welcome. Sweet. Okay, so I think I'll go ahead and get started because I want to respect your time. I am so grateful to you all for being here. There's nothing quite like having all of your favorite people in the same place at the same time. So thank you for showing up, and thank you for all of your support as I've been working on this book. I really am in so much gratitude to all of you. And I do know that there are, most people here know me, know my story, but there are some people who don't know me and who are new to my story. And so a big welcome to all of you. And I will kind of get everybody up to date in a moment and give you some background on the story and that sort of thing. But I first want to say that each one of you in some way has touched my life and has been integral in me putting this work together. And it has been some work over a number of years. And so I would like to say, first of all, thank you for all of your love and support. And this is the book. I should hold it up. A Fierce Belief in Miracles. I'm super excited about it. And I'd like to take a moment and bless this book. Yes. And I want to bless it with all of the love and the support that I have felt from each of you and from many others who couldn't make it here tonight. And I want to bless it in such a way that as it goes out into the world and touches people, that they feel that same love and support that I have received all these years. And that is a powerful blessing. So I have you all to thank for that.
We do.
Thank you. Thank you, Sue.
We do.
So I want to tell you a little bit about how tonight's going to run. The first half of our time together, I'm going to have a moderator. My friend Anna Levesque is going to moderate. And Anna is an Ayurvedic health coach and a whitewater kayaking instructor. And she facilitates mind-body adventure retreats for women. And I chose Anna to be here tonight because I really wanted someone whom I knew and who was very grounded and present. And Anna is that person. So I'm so grateful for her support. So she's going to be asking me some of the more common questions that I receive about the book, and I'll answer those. And as we go through that back and forth, if you have questions that pop up, feel free to type them into the chat if you would like, and Anna will catch them for the second half when we will take questions from you all. But ideally, even if you type something into the chat, I would like for you to actually ask that in person. So we will have you unmute at that time and ask your own question. But if you just want to have, kind of a heads up, here's a question for Anne, then Anna will know to call on you. If you'd rather raise your hand and you know how to raise your hand, then you can go ahead and do that. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Anna.
Gonna unmute myself. Thank you, Anne. I'm excited and honored to be here with you and with everyone. And for those of you who don't know Anne, I know a lot of you do. She's a writer, a healer, and an artist. And she has devoted many years of her life to empowering and encouraging women to trust themselves, to open to their intuitive guidance, to experience the magic of life. And she does that through workshops, ceremony, inviting them to open their hearts, and through creativity and curiosity. And so she's a special person. And I met her years ago. Well, in 2007, actually, we sat in Women's Circle together, and we actually quested. We did our vision quest together the same year. And I'm really excited because I just finished her book today. And the message is so empowering and so inspiring. And of course, selfishly, my favorite parts are the parts that I actually was honored to witness myself personally, sitting in circle and questing. And so we're here to celebrate this amazing book. And, you know, the book, A Fierce Belief in Miracles, My Journey from Rape to Healing and Wholeness. And so I'm going to begin with sharing the short excerpt, and I'm going to read it off the back. So here it is. When faced with overwhelming hardship, what we believe makes all the difference. This inspiring true story offers the gripping and uplifting details of a story that sparked national interest. At the age of 26, Anne was brutally raped by a stranger. Years later, still seeking to heal from this trauma, she stands alone in her living room and claims her desired belief aloud. This is my year of strength. Her clear intention results in a phone call notifying her that her rapist has been identified 14 years after the crime. Thank you for sharing your story, Anne.
Thanks, Anna.
And so, and so I'd like to start. Rape is not an easy thing to talk about. And I've always admired your courage and your willingness to speak powerfully, in a powerful way about it. Will you share with us what happened when you were 26?
Sure. So I had just started teaching chemistry in a school in Northern Virginia. And I had the summers off. So that first summer after teaching, I was going out cycling a lot. And I had plans on this particular July morning to go to a bakery that was not far from where I lived in a little community and eat lunch there and then cycle back. And on the way, I was taking a different route than I had previously taken. And on the way, I ended up intersecting this gravel road that from my map seemed like it would go to where I needed to get to. And I had some hesitation at that gravel road, but I eventually chose to go down that road. And it was there that there was a car that passed me and stopped, and a man got out to supposedly ask for directions. And when I went to get my map, I turned around and was hit in the face. And so I was beaten and pulled into the woods and raped.
And what was life like months and years after that trauma? I know you sustained injuries, both physically and emotionally. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. So actually, in the weeks and months immediately following that, I was focused primarily on helping law enforcement to try to identify the perpetrator, which just seemed to not be moving anywhere. And during that time, I was experiencing a lot of the symptoms of post-traumatic stress. For me, that showed up as anxiety and difficulty breathing. And about 8 months after that incident, I started experiencing pain in my pelvis and hips. And over time, that particular piece it worsened so that it made it very difficult to walk. So I spent a number of years really focusing on doing the healing I needed for me emotionally and physically.
And in the book, and you actually mentioned it in the answer to your first question this evening, you mentioned that point of hesitation about going down that road. And that in the book that's an important piece to your story and to your healing journey. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So I had a little argument that day between my logical mind and my intuition. And I think that we all probably do this at some point, where we doubt our intuitive sense or we don't trust our gut. And I had mixed messages, I thought. I got to that gravel road and I felt like it would be a bad idea to go down it. It wasn't that it was just that it was gravel, which is difficult to ride on with my road bike, but it was also that it felt foreboding. So I actually turned my bike around and headed back to where I had come from. And moments later, I got this other sense that I really needed to go that direction. And I couldn't quite figure out why, if it was like my logical mind sensing that that was the right way according to the map, or if it was some other intuitive sense that was leading me that way. But at any rate, I did turn around and go down that road. And the reason why that is a big part of the story is because for years that caused me to not trust my intuitive sense. I didn't feel like I could discern what messages were true for me. So that required some inner work, and eventually led me to, realizing for myself what was the true message and what I could trust within myself.
And I don't think I'll divulge anything from the book. I was honored to witness a piece of that myself, and I will never forget that personally, that moment for me when you expressed out loud in circle that piece of realizing why you had turned back and gone down that road. Even I have goosebumps now just speaking about it. My mind was blown. And you all who, if you haven't read the book yet, you'll get to read about that piece. And for me, that has been very powerful in my life, reminding me of context. And I think for folks reading the book, it's such a powerful message. It's part of the piece for me of you taking the power of context of what happened, and you get to decide what that context is. That is my interpretation, and that's what helps me out in my life, and that's very powerful. So this is part of the story for me that is powerful, and that it's such an important message.
Thank you, Anna.
Yeah. Your case eventually went to court 14 years after the assault. And can you tell us a bit about how that happened, how that came to be 14 years later?
Sure. So it was kind of a synchronistic event, and it happened after my daughter was born in the fall of 2003. And I'm going to read a little excerpt from the book, because this clearly explains kind of my mindset and what led me to getting clear about my intention as I move forward with having a daughter. I just brought another female into the world, and I wanted to be a powerful role model for her. Liza's ability to embrace inner strength and confidence would be largely dependent on my having done so myself. I wanted the ability to stand tall, to be sure-footed. Though I was primarily looking for physical strength, I sensed I'd find it only if I strengthened some deeply held weakness or fear that was crying out for help. These thoughts inspired a new level of resolve. It was January 2004 when I reached a moment of conviction. I would do anything to experience true strength. Anything. The power of this thought alone made me feel vulnerable, but I knew I'd need to stretch beyond what felt comfortable in order to undergo this seemingly massive change. Feeling ready for the shift, I decided to hold a ceremony. I lit a candle, stood alone in my living room, invited in helpful spirits, and stated my intention out loud. This is my year of strength, I declared aloud, my fists clenched with resolve. I call on the spiritual realm to guide me on the path to rediscover my strength and wholeness. 2 days later, as I was folding laundry in the living room, I received a phone call from Prince William County. Upon seeing the words highlighted on my caller ID, I felt my body tighten, my breath falter. I answered the phone with hesitation. This is Detective Newsom with the Prince William County Police Department. Is this Ann? His voice was soft and friendly. It was strange hearing that voice, so familiar yet so removed from my present experience. It took me a moment to make the connection. Newsom, the detective who worked my case, I haven't heard from him in years. I felt anxious about what he might say next. Got a call 2 days ago from the state prison in West Virginia. There's been a DNA match for your case. Silence. My mind and emotions flickered between past and present. Chills ran up my arms. 2 days ago, I thought, I affirmed my strength. I sank onto the couch, spilling freshly folded pants and pillowcases onto the floor, the receiver still tight to my ear. 14 years. It had been 14 years since I was brutally attacked and raped.
Oh.
How did it feel in that moment of receiving that call for you?
Yeah, I felt pretty unsteadied by it, to be honest. I told him I would be okay, that everything was okay. That was, like everything was cool. But then I just completely broke down afterwards. So, but it was very clear to me that that year, what was ahead, what lied ahead for me was about finding my strength.
Yeah, and how did you prepare to face your perpetrator in court? Because that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. The case was to go to court in April of 2004, and in early April, I was called and told that it was delayed until November, which was actually good for me because I didn't feel emotionally prepared to show up, actually. I felt like I needed to do some inner work and really get in touch with a grounded sense within me. And, this was part of my work, right, is to find my strength. So, and I'll read another little piece in here for that preparation, because I had learned a blessing technique from a spiritual dowser friend of mine, and I found it invaluable to work with that particular year. So I'll read this because it explains the blessing. I woke early and sat on the meditation cushion in the middle of the living room floor, a tea light candle burning before me. I blessed myself, then blessed my perpetrator, and added my own words of forgiveness. Creator, please bless me, I began. Support the healing and the balance of my complete being. These blessings were far from a passive act. I would be appearing in court as a step toward healing myself and would not go in with half-hearted intention. As days passed, the thread of my connection with the rapist strengthened. I was soon referring to him by his first name. Creator, please bless Terry. Support his healing and balance. In forgiveness of him and his violent acts, I release any anger or bitterness I hold now, and I invite in peace and acceptance for myself and for him. please help him to feel the power of forgiveness.
Mm. Wow.
So that's what I worked with each day for 6 months. And what happened in the courtroom was truly a miracle. And I won't give you a spoiler on that one. You can read that yourself, but it was life-changing for me.
Yeah, that's a very powerful part of the book, very powerful. And I have to say, you just said that as if, yeah, I did this every day. That is a powerful prayer. I just want to acknowledge you. It is amazing. And I'm so grateful that you've shared it with all of us and in the book. Before I ask the next question, I would like to ask if anyone is not muted, can you just check to make sure you're muted? I thought I heard some rustling around, so I just want to make sure, just so we can hear Anne well. So you just mentioned miracles, and the title of your book is A Fierce Belief in Miracles. So I'm going to ask this 2 parts. Do you fiercely believe in miracles?
I do.
Anne?
I do. I do fiercely believe in
And
miracles.
so how does, and the next part of my question was, how did you get there? But I think you just answered that from with your previous answer. What I heard you say was practice, consistent practice over time, and an opening, and with that practice of that prayer, right? Using the tools that you learned.
So for me, at the beginning, it was kind of fake it till you make it. I wasn't sure what I was doing, but I knew I needed to do something. But truly, for me, a belief in miracles is a belief in love. And when we approach our experience from a place of love, we're more open and we're more curious instead of being stuck or shut down. And so we're more apt to find those treasures and those gifts in any situation if we approach it in that way of openness and opening our heart.
Thank you for sharing that. That's, yeah, thank you. And how does it feel to believe in miracles? I mean, you just talked about an open heart and opening to love. And how does that feel in your body?
Expansive, definitely expansive. And it's always a work in progress, right? That things happen and we shut down, and then it's the work to open back up and find our heart space. And so it's always a work in progress. But when I'm in that flow, yeah, it feels awesome.
I think that's also an empowering piece of your story in the book is how you talk about how it was and is a work in progress. And to me, that's very inspiring. I think to many folks, it's about progress, so to speak, not perfection. And that spiral of coming back around, and that's okay. That's part of the process. I think having someone like you who, has been on a journey to wholeness and healing, that it didn't happen in an instant, that, that it is possible when we feel we might be in a space where we're feeling really down or hopeless, right? That your story is, keep going, keep tuning in. These are my words. This is, and that's very powerful. So
those are good words. Yeah.
And you have, what's that?
Those are good words.
I keep saying that word, powerful. Oh. And you explored a lot of several different healing modalities on your journey to healing and wholeness. And as you say, it continues. And one of those modalities is creating dolls, and I call them medicine dolls. Again, those are my words. I've had the honor of sitting with a few of them, meeting a few of them, and they've always, I've always experienced them. Again, I'm going to say that word is very powerful. It's a theme. And can you tell us more about that modality of creating dolls and how that works and how that is for you?
Sure. So I'll briefly describe it. Dolls have been used for thousands of years and across many cultures to hold really intense emotion. And doll making has been used as a way of doing deep healing work. And I have always loved things that are tiny. And I got to a point in my healing when I was just obsessed with dolls. I think for me, there was so much emotion expressed in their structure and the way that their facial expression looked. And I was very attracted to them. And fortunately, I came upon a mentor, Barb Kobe, who wrote the foreword to my book. And she did a healing doll journey. And so she got me started in making dolls as a practice of healing. And I needed kind of a template or a roadmap to go through that process. I used a medicine wheel, which in indigenous cultures is a symbol that is used for personal transformation. And I used that as the map to walk through the healing. And so in talking about this, I want to introduce to you some special guests because they're introduced in the book, but there are no pictures of them. So I am going to share with you these dolls. Let's see. I think there. Can you see that? All right. So in the medicine wheel, I started in the east, and the east is the direction that's associated with the springtime season, which is a place of new beginnings, new growth. And this is the guardian, which I created to oversee my whole healing process. And then I moved to the south. And the south is the direction associated with the summertime season. It's a place of growth, and it's a place where we have the opportunity to look at our shadow. This is my scapegoat, fear. It's the part of me that needed the most work. And each of these dolls that I made had teachings for me. So I share those in the book that I communicated with them with a journaling process. And they shared with me their teachings that helped me go through my healing process. Moving to the west, the doll of the west is associated with the fall season. It's a place of letting go of those things that no longer serve us, and of finding compassion with the wounded part of ourselves. And this is my compassionate mother that I created in the west of the medicine wheel. And moving to the north is associated with the wintertime season. And the north is a place where we hunker down and really get in touch with the essential or core part of ourselves, that true part of ourselves. Our truth. And this represents the antithesis of what I was looking at in the south, my scapegoat. And it has the capacity to get in touch with those wisdom parts of ourselves that can help us to overcome what was our shadow. So this is my talisman, and her name is She Who Drums. And I'm gonna read her teaching because all of the teachings that came from these dolls are universal. They weren't just for me. They really are meant for all people. And this feels like something that would be a good teaching for all of us. So her teaching is beat your drum. You did not come here to be silent. You were called to beat your drum. Your drum, your medicine. There is no other here at this time who brings what you bring. Come from the shadows. Circle round this fire. Weave your blanket among us and sing your song. Pound your feet upon the earth. Be witnessed. It is your drum the people await. Your drum that completes us. Your drum inspires the dream, heals the wound, transforms the moment. This moment, now. You did not come here to be silent. It is time to beat your drum. So I'm going to share one more doll that is spoken of in the book, but is not really in the medicine wheel. She came later, and her name is Going to Seed. And she represents that time in life when the wisdom or the gifts that you have is concentrated and ready to be dispersed to the world. And she holds as her staff a lotus pod, and it has these golden seeds, and in her other hand, she is beginning to give those seeds to the world. And one of the seeds I realized after I made her that was mine to give to the world is this one, my book, A Fierce Belief in Miracles. And so I hope that you will buy a copy if you haven't already, and that you will share it widely. And if you feel so called, to write a review on Amazon and Goodreads. And I so appreciate that support. So at this point, I am open to taking some questions, and Anna you can raise your hand, or as I said, type things in the chat, and I'll let Anna moderate that.
It looks like Gretchen had a question. What are the dolls made of, and how long did it take to make them? But we should ask, she can maybe unmute herself.
Sure, yeah, where's Gretchen?
Hi, Ann.
Hi.
Thank you so much for making those dolls. I've just been really curious ever since I've heard about them, about how you make them, what they're made out of, and kind of how long it took you to make them.
Yeah, thank you, Gretchen. They're mixed media, primarily fiber, but I also use polymer clay for many of them, and there are some other components that some of them have. In terms of timing, my whole medicine doll process was 7 years long. And that doesn't mean I made dolls the whole time. It means that I was listening and waiting for them to speak to me. And some of them took longer than others. My Scapegoat, for example, was 3 iterations. I made a doll and it wasn't quite right. It didn't go deep enough. I made another. It went a little deeper, but I couldn't complete it. It was too intense. And then, finally that fear doll came out. So it depended on the doll, how long it took. But it really, for me, it was a process of listening for the dolls to speak to me and tell me they were ready to come in. And then I would ask them what they needed to come into form. And I would do my best to recreate the image that I saw in my mind's eye.
Wonderful, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Dory Jones Yang has a question.
Great.
Yes, hi, Ann. It's wonderful to see you today. I was just thinking, I'm new to the idea of dolls, and a lot of the ideas that you have that really helped you enormously. It feels new to me, although they probably are rooted in the ages, but it just made me wonder about women throughout the ages that have had the kind of trauma that you've had, And there's no way for you to know, obviously, what helped them. But I wondered if you've thought about, what has helped other women in other times and places, because what you had was so unique.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know that I've considered it in that way, actually, Dory. I certainly have looked at so many different modalities of healing myself. But I think what you're talking about is looking back through time and considering what women throughout history have looked to as a healing source, yes?
Yes, but it sounds like some of the things that you did may have had their roots in history as well, and other wisdom traditions.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and much of the spiritual aspect of my healing, I mean, I think many of us turn to our spirituality in really difficult times. And so the ceremonies that I was part of and the prayers that I brought into my life, all of that felt really powerful and really rooted. And for me, there was quite a bit of connection with ancestors too, with my ancestors, which I don't talk about in the book, and that's a whole nother piece of it. But yeah, that's an interesting question. I'll have to consider it more. Yeah. Thank you.
Kathy Hallwood, I don't know if I'm saying the name right. Hallwoodell has a question.
Well, you were very brave to try Hallwoodell. But first of all, I want to thank you for my first Zoom book release. I love this. This is great. I'm in New Mexico, and I feel intimately connected with you guys and the question askers. My question is so businesslike, and I'm embarrassed to ask it, but it's important because I know, Anne, that you want to get as many people reading this book as possible. You and I talked about this is a message that you have for the world, and you want to do public speaking and get out as much as you can. But then this COVID-19 thing comes along and you got to change your plan. So I know you have a plan, a very carefully mapped out plan. What's this going to look like? How can we support you? How are you going to get the word out in this new world?
Oh, thank you, Kathy. Well, part of this too is trust in spirit. Months ago, I had visions of this launch being at my local indie bookstore, Malaprops in Asheville. And of course, that didn't happen. But many of you wouldn't even be there. So what a lovely, what a lovely way to do this launch. And I will be putting more out. Most things are going to be virtual at this point. I would say right now, the way you can support me is to write reviews, because that really helps authors, especially on Amazon and Goodreads, and spread the word about the book. If you like it, share it with others, share it with book clubs, etc. And sign up for my newsletter. I'll keep you posted there about other events. And from there, I welcome your business mind into this, Kathy, actually. I'm not surprised by your question. Thank you.
And Cindy, in where I'm from, it would be Rassicot.
That's
Cindy,
fine.
yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Anne. I am so moved by your gift of heart here and your sharing and your story. It's a real privilege to, as the drummer said, bear witness to who you are and what you've done. My question, I wrote it out and it turned out I didn't quite want to say it that way, but in thinking about it, I thought it was very brave of you to forgive your attacker. And I was wondering if there was any anything that came to consciousness or anything that changed or allowed you to forgive at a certain point. Or another way of asking it is, you must have gone through a lot to get to that point. What was it like for you?
That's a good question. So this might be a little bit of a spoiler, because I do talk about it in my book, and I will share this part that yes, there was an event that happened that was a transformational moment, and that was that a couple years after I was raped, I was living in Asheville, and I fell asleep one afternoon and I had a dream, and in the dream I was the rapist and he was me. And I woke from that dream knowing that we shared something. We shared our woundedness. He was wounded, I was wounded. We were both in pain. And I began to see things differently. And I wanted to forgive him. And that too was a process. It wasn't an immediate, oh yes, it wasn't an immediate shift. And you know, I had 14 years between the incident and going to court. So that was a lot of time to work on that. I will say that forgiveness was really more for me than for him. He didn't care how much anger or angst I had within me. I cared. So any anger I had toward him was hurting me way more than it was hurting him. And it took a while, but I began to realize that that it would be so much nicer to just hold love in my heart and not hold that angst. And with practice, I could get to that place. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Mary Beth Kingston has a question.
Hi, Anne.
Hi, Mary Beth.
So I will be sharing this with my book group and here in Asheville.
Great. And I'm happy to come and speak, or, I can Zoom in too, if you all want to have a Q&A.
Yeah, we have a funny group on our street. There's 4 former librarians. They are avid readers, and we've been diving into some really good ones. So I'm really looking forward to reading. So when you showed the scapegoat, I felt really scared, and I wanted to look away, and I can't imagine what it was like for you to make that and make it 3 times. And so then I wondered what was it that you gained from her, and how does she help you?
Yeah, she's powerful. And I too didn't like her at all. I kept her, as all my dolls, I would keep it in my working space so that I was sitting with it all the time. And I'm not going to share her teaching. That would be a little bit of a spoiler, too much of a spoiler. And I think it's worth reading it. I didn't speak with her for quite a while as far as journaling. Frankly, I despised her. She was so ugly and uncomfortable to be around, and it took so much work to get to her. But I will say that I don't share this in the book, but after I made her and got through the teaching and really got it, I loved her. And after that, I made a number of fairies and light beings of light with wings. And that was a really wonderful time to kind of rise out of that darkness. So yeah, thank you for that question.
And Sandy Rice has a question.
Hey, Anne.
Hey,
Congratulations on your
Sandy.
book. one of the things that I guess I think about and want to ask is, with you talking about this repeatedly and going back and revisiting so many of the steps in the process that you went through, how are you taking care of yourself right now?
Great question. Well, right now I feel great because the book is complete. During the writing of the book and the editing process, I became re-traumatized, and I actually needed to take a step back and leave the writing altogether for a bit. I met with a breath coach. I really nurtured myself, and I made myself, self-care was a priority for me while I got through that part. And at this point, I'm feeling really, really well. I always keep tabs on what's going on emotionally. And of course, as you know, I had an injury this summer that didn't make this easier. But yeah, self-care is a priority. It should be for all of us. It often has taken a back burner, but not during this.
Thank you, Anne.
Yeah, thank you, Sandy.
Those are all the questions that I've seen in the chat, and there are a few comments for you in the chat that you might want to take a look at.
Okay.
And I suppose if anyone else has questions, you can type them or raise your hand. I won't be able to see the raised hands, but Anne will be able to.
I have a question, Anne. It's Allison Demansky.
Hey, Allison. Yeah, go ahead.
First, I have to congratulate you. This is what an achievement, girl. It is such a thrill that you have brought this to life, and that there are so many supporting you, and immensely proud of what you've achieved. We're thrilled for you. So way to go, girl.
Thank you.
The question I have, and we're Facebook friends, so I do see a lot of what maybe others don't, but yet another bike tragedy so few months ago. What connection between it and what we're doing tonight, the completion of this journey, what connection can you make between how you have dealt with it in light of all that you've been dealing for 25 odd years?
Well, it's still unfolding. I will say that accident happened 30 years almost to the date of my rape. And there are no accidents. I mean, that was an accident, but it was very synchronous. And one of the things that was really lovely about that experience this summer was that as I lay on the road by the railroad track with my femur broken in pieces, my daughter, Liza, took control of the situation and dialed 911 and got me an ambulance. And I realized laying there that this is what I had wanted for her, that she would be in a place where she felt powerful enough to take care of things, when it was uncomfortable. And she was doing it. There she was right there doing it. And there I was laying in the road, immobile, pretty much helpless. And she rode in the ambulance with me to the hospital, and I was seeing my experience from an entirely different vantage point this summer. One, my daughter was grown, she was 16. And the other piece of it though was that when I was raped, I left my body. I really couldn't be present for that. I could not be I just couldn't stay around. And I kind of used that for a number of years to escape situations that were uncomfortable. But when I had the accident this summer and I was laying there in the road, I was completely in my body. I was completely present. And when the rescue squad arrived, I called the shots. I was able to tell them that I needed to move my body onto the sheet instead of them, that I knew what I needed in order to get myself situated so they could move me onto the gurney. And I did the same in the hospital. I was able to call the shots and really be present for myself. And it was an entirely different experience. I really felt like I was so present and alive in it, even though I was in a lot of pain. And there's something really lovely about that. There are still a number of themes that are unfolding that are related to me walking in the world again and walking in a new way. And walking has been a challenge for many years of my life. And I'm so grateful to be able to walk. Today, I took my first hike by myself for an extended period of time without my dog. And I'm a little sore, yay. I'm a little sore this evening, but it's so wonderful to be able to walk in the world and to be able to be present and really a part of it all. So I don't know if that answered your question, but there you go. Thank you, Allison.
Beautiful, beautiful answer, Anne. And as surprising as I expect to be when reading your book, though, you know, you and I had discussed the trajectory, but I know I am still going to be surprised. So congratulations again, girl.
Thanks, Allison.
Sue Riley has a question.
Great.
Hi, Anne.
Hi, Sue. Great to see you.
Years ago.
I know,
Chemistry
I love
teacher.
this.
I took
Sue
a
and I
shower.
taught
so I'm
together
still out.
in Manassas. We taught chemistry together.
Yes. My question is, I have a granddaughter at 18, has gone through not as horrible, but a bad situation. How do you start the process of healing? How can I help her start the process of healing? She doesn't have the wisdom of our ages. She's only 18, and it breaks my heart.
Yeah. I'm sorry to hear that, Sue. And I think most importantly, for me anyway, was beginning to trust myself. And the more I could get the message from other people, or even the query, what is it that you feel you need? That I really needed to check in with myself again and again to access that part of me that was calling out. And so I think that if you're looking for ways that you can support her to ask her questions like that what does she feel even if she doesn't know, if she did know, what might be one thing that she would feel like feel supportive to her? Because much of my healing at first was very cerebral, like if this doesn't work, I'm going to try the next thing. But the true healing was emotional, and the more I could be asked questions that got me into my emotions, the more I was in touch with that part of me that really wanted to speak. And so that's really where it begins, is finding a way to trust yourself again. I think for me anyway, that was what it was about, was how can I trust myself in the world? How can I trust myself? And I learned to trust myself in the healing process, because you have to navigate healing with your feelings. You can't do it from a headspace. It's not a head game. It's following your heart and following your gut as to the next step for you personally. So encourage her to trust herself, to listen, to trust herself, and she will find her way.
Yeah, that's hard to do at 18.
I know.
Very hard.
I know.
But
yeah, it's a process,
just
you know.
starting.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. All she wants is jail for the guy, and I don't think that's going to happen. So,
Yeah.
but thank you. It's wonderful seeing you,
Great
checking
seeing
in
you
all
too.
the time. But
Thank you.
But I will share your book with her.
Awesome. Thank
Thanks.
you.
I don't see any other questions, and there are several comments that I think of gratitude for you in the chat.
Oh.
So be sure you read those.
Okay.
There's many.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for coming here again tonight. It really touches my heart to see all of your friendly faces. Some of you I haven't seen for years, and I'm just super excited to have you all here together. I wish I could do this every week, just to to feel all your love right here. So thank you for your support, and I wish you well. Take my book out into the world and share it with others freely. And if you feel like you want to be in touch with me, then do that. And I wish you well. So much love to you. If you have questions later, you can email me or get on my website and send me a note. Love to you. Good night, all.
Thank you, Anne. Love to you too.
Yeah, you can turn on, unmute yourselves and say hello or goodbye.
Hi, Anne.
Goodbye, Anne.
Hi, Anne.
Goodbye.
so much.
Bye now.
Okay, bye-bye.
Hi, thank you.
Sending you love.
Kelly Bell.
Hi, Anne.
Great turnout,
Thank you,
Anne. Well
Anna
done.
and Anne.
Thank you.
You're awesome.
Hi, Anne. Congratulations.
Love you, Anne.
Shalom, shalom.
Beautiful. Beautiful job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
make
you.
me proud.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you, Anne and Anna.
Yes, thank you, Anna,
Linda.
too.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
you.
Hi, Tammy.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Shalom.
Bye, Brenda.
Good night.
Peace and love.
Lots of love. Thanks, Dawn.
Good night.
Good to see you, Kelly.
Great job, Mom.
Thanks, Joseph. Thanks, Julie, John, and Emma.
Love you.
Love you
Good night.
too.
Oh, God.
Ann, how's the leg?
How's the leg? It's awesome. I'm starting lunges today. I did lunges.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. Hey, Sharon, thank you for being here.
So good to be with you, Anne. Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here.
Uh-huh.
Thanks, Dave, for being here. Sweet.
Anna, you were a great moderator too.
You did great, Anna. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate
I was nervous.
You did great. It was awesome. It's just what I wanted, for it to flow. And look, we're having circle.
Good.
Yay.
I know.